Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, and welcome to the Let's Talk. This is our channel
Real
where
talk, real talk. You got the name wrong.
oh, okay, cut. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, and welcome to the Real Talk. This is our channel where we discuss things that are important to us in our day-to-day lives, things that affect human beings, things that make us happy, things that make us sad. And this is a channel for us to talk about how we feel, about how different things make us feel, and for us to have an open discussion and try to help each other to be better people. So please, if it's your first time watching us, please like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on social media. Our links will be in the description down below. Rail, welcome to your own channel. It's nice being on the host side of this for once. And before I introduce you and your topic, happy belated birthday.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for hosting. It should be interesting being on the other side. But yeah, it is what I wanted to speak about. So thank you for taking the initiative and hosting. And thank you for the birthday wishes. I'm getting old. So yeah, over 30.
Yeah, we won't.
Sorry?
Are we just gonna go with over 30? Okay, so that's what
Yeah,
we're sticking with.
over
Okay.
30, but under
Sure.
35, so
Okay.
you can guess. Yeah.
Sure. He's 32, by the way, viewers. Right.
Still young,
So
young
okay.
at heart, 18 at heart. So yeah.
Yeah, mentally as well. Um, so on that topic, actually, this month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Around the world, people are trying to educate themselves, trying to educate other people about what's important about mental health, why we need to open up this sort of discourse about mental health. And Rahil, I know that it's something that is quite important to you. As you mentioned, this is something that you wanted to talk about, which is why I'm on this side of the camera. So, Rahil, take it away. Let us know what it is that mental health means to you, and why is this something that you wanted to talk about?
Well, of course, as we know, we're going through a pandemic. So regardless of whether we were or not, but now it's more relevant than before because a lot of countries and places are going through lockdowns, and what that means is some people are getting isolated and lacking that human contact. We as human beings, we want that human contact, and naturally we are inclined to have human connection. But now because of the lockdown, that isn't happening, and some people who live alone are are going to face those challenges of not being able to have that human connection. So that will give rise to a lot of mental health issues, which has been happening. I mean, if you read the news and watch videos, you'll see a lot of people going through mental health issues. So I thought now is more than ever is the best time to talk about it. Uh, me personally, I've been very lucky to have people around me. So I haven't personally gone through any of that during this pandemic, but I have been reading a few stories. Like, for example, I'll give you a quick story where this old man a very elderly gentleman in the UK couldn't was living alone and couldn't see his family for over a month, and had a few medical issues as well, and he couldn't see his family, couldn't get the medical attention that he wanted, and he suffered from a lot of mental health issues, like depression and anxiety. And that's just one scenario. There's plenty out there. So it is really, really important for us to acknowledge that and help in any way, shape, or form that we can. And the second reason is social media. We are living in a social media era. So what tends to happen is that you go on Instagram or Facebook or any other social, Twitter, and you see people posting great, or like they're having a great holiday, or they've just bought a new car, or they're going to the gym and they're looking great. You see all these models posting pictures, and what that creates, automatically we start comparing ourselves to those people. But we need to keep that in mind, that these people will only post the good side of their life. You don't know what's happening on the other end of the camera. So I do that. So that the reason why I'm saying that, sometimes I do that and I have to quickly snap out of it, because I'm like, wait, that's, you shouldn't be doing that. We need to be grateful for where we are, or what we have. But what it also creates is this unhealthy or negative competitive nature, because what you're trying to, why comparison, you because we are competitive, our systems are competitive in school, in at work. It's a whole competitive environment, and while competition is good, it also has an unhealthy side to it. So what tends to happen is you put extra pressure on yourself, because you want to be better than that person, you want to have a better car than someone. And social media, unfortunately, it has positives, but it has negative side to it. So those are the two main reasons why I thought we need to address and talk about mental health and raise more awareness.
Okay, so yeah, I think social media is a very big part of it. But before we move sort of deeper into that social media aspect of it, what is mental health to you? Why is an entire month being dedicated around the world to this topic? What is it? What do those words mean to you?
Well, it's very simple, right? If you look at it, it's basically keeping a healthy mind, right? For so many years, we've focused on keeping a healthy body. So we eat right, we try to eat healthy, we try to go to gym, exercise, but then we've been neglecting our mental mind, our mental state. And that is, for me, it's more important, because if, you know what they say, that healthy body relates to a healthy mind. I believe the opposite. I think a healthy mind will result in a healthy body, because our mind controls everything in our body. It is one of, if not the most important vital organ of our body. So if we don't take care of it, if we don't find ways to improve the state of our mental well-being, then how will we cope with this stressful environment that we all live in? So that's why I think it's so important to understand mental health and have discussions on it.
Okay, yeah, I think you make a very good point. I think that I do agree with the concept that a healthy body leads to a mental mind, but a healthy mind, but you're 100% correct, because that first step to start leading a healthy lifestyle to improve your body comes from the decision that's made up here. So yeah, I think that you're 100% correct. I think it's something that doesn't get highlighted enough, that is a mental step that you make first before your body then plays catch up to that mental decision. So doing some research for the show, it's interesting. Studies show that human beings over the course of a single year have at least 5 different mental health issues. As you mentioned, during the COVID times, that number is probably a lot higher across the average. But in a normal year, an average happy human being suffers 5 mental health issues throughout that year. Have you had any of these issues, or and did you know at the time that you were going through it, or looking back now, do you think, hey, that's something that I probably went through and I didn't know at the time?
So when did we meet? In 2008, right? So from 2008 to 2016, when I left South Africa, I think I was going
Touche.
to this. Okay, but no.
Touche.
In all seriousness, I don't know if you're aware. I don't know if I ever shared this with you or anyone, but when I was younger in high school, I did get bullied, and maybe like you said, we because there was no awareness at that time, um and that's the main word, right? Awareness. If you're not aware of what's going on, you wouldn't know what's the issue is. So I think maybe during those periods, in high school, and especially when you're a teenager, you're going through all these hormonal changes, plus the uh, added bullying incidents, I think I wouldn't say 100% sure because I wasn't aware of what was going on, but I presume I probably might have been going through a little bit of a mental health crisis at that age. But apart from that, I've been very fortunate that I haven't had any major issues. I mean, we all go through periods of anxiety or depression, but they haven't been long lasting. So I've been very, very fortunate in that instance. How about you? And don't say that when
Um,
you met me, because the joke's over now.
yeah, I give you that one. I'll keep my retaliation for later. Yeah, look, I think that I have mentioned on this channel before that in my previous job, nothing to do with the job. I think a lot of people will be lucky to have had the job that I had. Um, but I didn't feel particularly fulfilled. I felt like I was stuck in a bit of a rut and that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And I think that led me into a very negative headspace where I was just going through the motions. And as you mentioned, because we're not aware of these sort of things, because we're not taught from a young age of how to identify these issues, I only became aware of that when I stepped out of that situation. When I left the situation that I was in, I was able to look back and go, wow, that probably wasn't the best thing for me. So yeah, I've had my fair share. I think both of us are fortunate to have friends and family that are supportive, and I think that makes it easier. That's one aspect of coping, having friends and family around you. You mentioned that there's been moments where you felt forms of anxiety, when you felt um, different levels of depression. Aside from friends and families, are there any other ways that you found to cope or to deal with those moments?
So, um, the thing is, like we mentioned earlier, because we had no education or awareness, I didn't have any other forms of coping. So I was heavily reliant on my friends and family. But and like I got over it over time because it wasn't that serious. So no, I didn't have any other forms of coping with the anxiety or depression. It's just over time, um, it kind of went away. But there are other ways of coping with mental health, which we'll talk about later.
So yeah, I think that that's important because it highlights once again that we're not really, as kids, we learn science, we learn biology, but nobody in school is telling us this is what happens when you feel down, and this is what you can do when you're being bullied. This is who you can speak to. So yeah, I think it's quite interesting that both you and I sort of lent on friends and family, but that was sort of it. That was the extent to which we were able to cope with our issues. Okay, do you know anyone, or is there anyone in your life that you are aware that has gone through mental health issues?
Yeah, I do. Without going into detail, because I do want to keep it a bit confidential.
Yeah.
There was someone close to me who went through depression and goes through depression. Um, so yes, and I think everyone. I'm pretty sure someone you or you, whether it's in your friend circle or your family or at work, I'm sure you've come across someone who does have mental health issues, but we maybe not paying attention to it or not aware of it. Some of us might be. I normally do try to pay attention, but yes, I did have someone very close to me going through depression. That's why
How
I've taken more interest in that, in mental health.
how do you respond to that situation? So if you notice that somebody is struggling, is going through, because it's such a taboo subject, because it's difficult, people don't want to put their hands up and say, I need help, I'm clinically depressed, or I'm going through very dark moments. How do you react to that situation if you find somebody who you think you could possibly help, or you could not you can help, but you can help them to find help? What do you do in that situation?
Well, for me, the most important thing, and this is for me, obviously, people might have different opinions on this, is to be patient and willing to listen. You have to listen to them. I've seen the complete contradictory, right? Where people like dismiss it and they think that someone's being dramatic, right? But that's not really the case. If you tell someone going through anxiety or depression that you are just being over dramatic, imagine what impact that will have on that person. So I don't know, from a young age, I kind of understood that this person was going through something at that point, I would say, bad in their life. And I just wanted to be there for them. Listen, it's okay. You just have to sit and listen and don't be dismissive. It's so important not to be dismissive. That's what I experienced. Like, if you are dismissive, it adds to their mental health issues. So, patience, be willing to listen and try to understand where they're coming from. So it just goes back to being empathetic. Show some
Yeah,
empathy. Yeah, that's the main
I
thing for
I
me.
I wish that that is something that we are taught from a younger age, because I I'm not a psychologist. I'm not qualified to say whether somebody is going through a certain issue or not. But I do feel like at a certain point in my life, I was not a very good friend towards somebody who, now that I'm older, I can look back and think they probably needed a different form of help. And had I had any sort of education in that in that in that field, any sort of a mentorship as a kid, maybe I would have been different. Thankfully, that person is okay and was able to take themselves out of it. But yeah, I think when I was exposed to it, I reacted exactly the way that you have suggested not to react to it, and to try downplay the person's problem, almost that tough love approach. But yeah, that was my experience. That was my experience with it. Uh, okay, so how do we combat it? How do we prevent people from going? You can't stop somebody from having mental health issues. How do we help them? How do we combat it ending badly?
Okay, so I'm going to go highlight two important things that I try to practice to improve or keep my mental state at a steady level, right? So first of all, we've spoken this on when we did our video on motivation. We mentioned about setting realistic goals and targets. So, like I mentioned earlier, this competitive nature, and we always rushing to get somewhere really really quickly, and we add more pressure on us. So if we set realistic goals and targets, then at least that self pressure is not there. And it's so important. I think I really believe that we should focus on living in the present. Like, it's good to have goals and targets, but if you appreciate where you are and what you have at the moment in the present, that relieves a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And and that is leading on to my second point, where I think you need to practice gratitude. Now, I've done some research, and I'll put the link. We'll put the link for this really good article, which says that neuroscience, right, actually proves that practicing gratitude releases dopamine, that is the hormones in your brain that actually uh, give you more positive thinking, and then that in turn releases not releases, it reduces stress and anxiety. So it's very important to appreciate what you have. Now, I was very, like, from a young age, we weren't that financially well off, right? But my parents made a lot of sacrifices, and they made sure we had food, we had good education. and I am where I am because of their sacrifices. And when you go through that period of having very little to having a lot or enough, it makes you grateful, and that gratitude stays with you. Actually, yesterday I did um, um, gratitude meditation, and it was just 5 minutes. My girlfriend does this every morning, and I decided to join, and it was so powerful. So even if we can, and this is readily available on, you can find it everywhere on social media. Just Google it. If you can take 5 minutes just to appreciate what you have, then automatically you will release all of this anxiety and stress, and you will feel more happy about yourself, because we already have so much extra stress and pressure all around us. So if we add to that ourselves, it's not going to help anything. It's impossible to control what we have around us. The only thing we can control is ourselves. So if we practice gratitude, I think it's a really, really good way of helping with the mental health. I just want to quote I have a quote from the one of the great Greek philosophers, um, Epicurus. I butchered his name. I'm really bad with names. So, is that right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with it. Yes, you're correct.
Epicurus. So his quote says, "Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hope for." So I think that's a really powerful quote, meaning that what you had now is once upon a time is what you wish for, and now you have it. And that's how life is. There's no need to rush for it. It will come to you with time and patience and with hard work, but not too much stress. And yeah, basically, don't put so much pressure on yourself. So that's how would that's what I do to boost my mental health.
I have a lead up or a leading question from there. So there are people who are able to practice that. There are people who are able to take their own steps in order to boost their mental health and to drag themselves out of negative situations. What do you think, or how do you feel about the negativity attached to professional mental health help and assistance? Um, I think that, or for example, your your friend, your family member, somebody close to you, is leaning on you like we did in our times of need for assistance, but you're not able to give them the assistance that they need aside from listening. What do you think, or how do you think, is it okay to say to somebody, I'm here for you, I am always going to listen to you, but I think that you should take the steps to speak to somebody who could potentially help you? Do you think that's a route that should be more widely available, or do you think that this is something that we can work on our own as individuals?
No, definitely. I mean, in a lot of cultures and places, seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist is almost taboo. Like we hide it. Why? Why? If you go to a doctor, right? If I have a flu, I'll go to the doctor, and that's fine. No one's going to judge you for it. But then if you're seeing some specialist, it's almost like everyone is a little bit, it's almost like a taboo. Why? I don't understand why it is the way it is, because like I said, it's so important. Our mental health is so important. So yes, I think if you're not in a place, because like we said, we're not professionals. We don't have enough education on psychology and the mental brain and the mental, yeah, and the brain to advise someone uh, professionally. I mean, we might send them on the wrong path, so it is a bit dangerous to actually do that. So I encourage people, even if you think it's for a small thing, it's not a small thing. That thing can build up. And if you see, and if you always say prevention is better than cure, right? So if
Yeah.
you start seeing psychologists or psychiatrists from very early on, you can prevent further issues down the line, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with seeing a professional. It's the same way when you have a flu or a cold and you go to the normal GP, go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Okay, Rael, I think that's fantastic. I think that the reason that I posed that question is because I think there are people who are able to help themselves, and I do think that there are also people who do need that assistance from professionals. And if you're watching this and either you or somebody that you know is going through issues, I think take the first step. Try try and help yourself. If you can't help yourself, don't be afraid to ask somebody else for help.
I just remembered
Yes.
one more thing. Just be more attentive to people. Like, um, this is going to sound a bit stalkerish, right? But
Yeah.
we spoke about social media. But if you see someone's posting all the time, right, and they like your pictures, and they stop posting or they stop liking your pictures or commenting, don't, like, I know a lot of people, I do sometimes take it personally. I'll be like, okay, this person used to like all my pictures, now they've stopped. But or I'm like, why isn't this person posting? It's been so long. They regularly have their stories and, their updates. Pick up the phone, ask them, what's going on, man? I really like your pictures and now you've stopped posting. Is everything okay? That's on social media. You can pay attention to people around you. If someone's acting a bit weird towards you, the first instinct we have is like, oh shit, what did I do? Right? Like, what did, but it's
Yeah.
probably nothing related to you. So just, it's so simple. Just ask, how are you? Mean it, not just ask for the sake of asking. Are you okay? What is going on with your life? Do you want to speak about it? If you don't want to speak to me, do you want to speak to someone else about it? So I think it's really, really important to be attentive around people and pay more attention to what's going on with people around us, and not to make judgments or come to conclusions without having that conversation. That's why this show is called The Real Talk. So important to
Yeah.
communicate. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's all. Yeah, that's all I just wanted to
I
add.
think yeah, I think that's massive. So um to anybody that's still with us, that's still watching, thank you very much. I think some of the takeaways from this video is, please take care of yourself. Put things in place that can help you as a person. Pay attention to people around you. Be kind to people around you. Try to help people around you. And if you can't, try and suggest other ways in which they can possibly help themselves, or somebody else can help them. Rayo, thank you very much for being on your show. And I'm sure it was an absolute pleasure to be hosted by me. Probably highlight of your life, top three, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely not. And if someone out there wants to host instead of Shiv, please give us a shout. Um, no, but thank you, bro. Seriously, I appreciate you hosting the show, and I hope everyone enjoyed it, or not enjoyed, but at least learned something from it, or are willing to have that conversation now around mental health. So thank you, and yes, please leave your comments. Send us an email. We'll put all the information in the description.
Yeah, please let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of the show. And anybody, if you have any hotlines, any websites, anything to do that can help people going through any sort of mental health difficulties, please pop it in the comments. Send us a link on social media. We'll try and put it out there as much as we can. Let's help each other. Thank you very much for listening to The Real Talk. Goodbye.